perhaps 10, 20 years. It's going to depend on the evolution we are going to be able to provoke to the sector, and especially here in this Congress. Then what we are trying to do during this 2.5 days is to, together with you, all of you of course, to begin to build this Organic 3.0. That means that we need to have a look on where we are, where we come from, what are our achievements, our trends, and our visions as the first basis to understand where we are and where we have to look at in the coming years. And we are going, I'm not going to extend much more to present this, to introduce this session. I just would like to thank our speakers and to welcome them to the session. We still miss one, but I think that is going to arrive, and we will welcome her. We've got with us Alan Savary from the Savary Institute, here of Zimbabwe. Ah, sorry Nadia, you're here. I wasn't seeing you. Sorry. We've got Dia Huber from FIBL, Elizabeth Anderson from USA, and Matthew Jung from India. Urs Nigli is also with us, and Nadia Shalaba that we've been already listening to this morning. I'm not going further in the introduction of yourself. If you feel you would need more information about your background, please feel free of giving it. I have to give a few points about the methodology. We are in the fishbowl. Perhaps some of you are already familiar with this methodology, others not. The idea is, you can see there are 2 empty seats yet. These are the seats that are reserved for you, because the idea is to have a participatory session. When we have these speakers that are going to have some key points of statements about 6 questions we have proposed to them. And the idea is to have a few statements and to open these 2 seats to people that want to participate from the attendees. You have to come in, sit, wait your turn, talk and propose your statement, your idea, your debate. If you agree, you don't agree, your opinion, whatever you feel can enrich the debate. And then you go back to the floor, and other people can come and also share with us his statement. Speaker can of course always answer and participate in the debate. That's the main characteristic of a fishbowl. The idea is to have a very active and interactive debate where we all feel free for debating and participating and agreeing or disagreeing, of course, always in a polite way. These 6 questions are really a tool to launch the debate, but don't really feel obliged to just answer to this question. If you feel you can widen the debate, please do it. And because we've got 1.5 hours and we have many interesting questions to debate on, I propose to split the 6 questions in 2 blocks, and having 3 first, and after 45 minutes, we'll have 40 minutes now. Just stop this debate and then go back to the following questions. That's okay, I forgot something about methodology. Any question about methodology? If you want to talk, and perhaps there is going to be a little queue, or speaker queue? What's the name in English? I don't know. You can just stand by here while the 2 public attendance seats are occupied. Well, I'm going to read the questions first, but we will repeat them because we were supposed to have them on the screen, but we had a little technical management problem, but it will be solved for the next track. The questions are, what does the organic world today look like in a nutshell? Something quite intense. The second one is, how are we to understand sustainability? What is sustainable and regenerative agriculture? Something very wide, and we are going to see how rich can be the vision about this question with our speakers' interventions. How do we compare to other sustainable agriculture initiatives? Is the third one, then the first block, and the second one is, which are our main achievements and our main impacts on the sustainability of the planet and the lives of its inhabitants? The fifth one, which megatrends did we take advantage of well, and which ones passed us by? The sixth one and the last, what are the shortcomings of organic agriculture, and how can we address them? Therefore, I'm just shutting up now, and I let our speaker begin with Alan Savory, please. Okay, we're going to have the questions. We've got 3-4 minutes for each block of questions by speakers. We are going to stand there in our seats, so to make it more friendly for attendees. And we've got a micro. We don't have a micro. And I'm afraid you have to stand up. Yeah, no, you have to stand up here. No. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, then you have to come here too. Sorry.
Good morning, all. I was battling to understand all that. I'm sure some of you were. I want to go through the 3 questions quickly, but before doing so, just say that I will be very provocative to provoke a good discussion and provoke new thinking. And my thinking will come from the scale of the problem and the time that is running out as we look at agriculture causing climate change more than fossil fuels and being our most damaging industry in the world today. And so in answer to the first question, I think that the organization has done extremely well in keeping organic agriculture, regenerative agriculture alive and growing against the mainstream trends in the world. But that it's not happening quickly enough, I think, is reflected by one comment that I read in the documents, and that was the premium price that people pay for agricultural products. They are the cheapest products that we can possibly produce in food. The prices are entirely distorted by global fiscal, financial and economic policies that are not being addressed. That's with regard to the first one. On sustainability, until all food is clean and healthy and growing on regenerating soils, nothing is sustainable. And we're not achieving that on the scale needed. Agriculture is not crop production alone. It is the production of food and fiber from the world's land and waters, fisheries, bees, all of these things, forestry, wildlife, all of these are agriculture. The proportion of the world's land that is under croplands is roughly 20%. The 80% is largely being ignored. When I look at Turkey itself, the proportion of land, according to the World Bank, that is cropland is 4.2%. That means 95% of Turkey is under agriculture, not crop production. Agriculture that is not crop production. And I think we need to pay attention to all of that. Now, the other point on sustainability is people think like us, who are working in regenerative agriculture in some form, are basing it on the biological sciences, in other words, on science. But 90% roughly of agriculture globally is not based on science, it's based on chemistry and smart marketing use of technology. And that's why agriculture is the most destructive industry in the world today. And we need to be focusing on that more, I believe, if we're going to talk sustainability. I think the third question was, how do we compare with other sustainable initiatives? I had a big question mark in my mind. What sustainable initiatives? There are very few, I find, that are truly sustainable when we look historically on the global scale. Don't forget, more than 20 civilizations failed under nothing but organic, sustainable agriculture as we define it today. So to be sustainable, we have to start looking at the social, cultural, economic, and environmental consequences of agriculture, and we're doing that very little. Sorry? Closer to the mic. Oh, I hope you got all that. I can't repeat it. So, I am aware that a great start is being made on trying to be sustainable now on 6 continents with the people that are working on the grasslands of the world. And I think we just need to magnify that and get it to all aspects of agriculture. Those are my brief comments on the first 3 questions.
Thank you very much for sticking to the time. I'm sorry for this.
There's still some free chairs over here. Well, to make it on the easy side, organic in a nutshell means 38 million hectares all over the world. Certified organic land. There's 1/3 in Oceania, there's about 1/3 in Europe, and there's about 1/3 in the other continents together. It means about 1.9 million farmers producing organically, and about more than 80% of these certified organic farmers are in the developing in countries and transition countries. And it means a market, a global market of $64 billion US, although here, when we look at where are the certified organic products sold, then we have 92% of the whole certified organic production is sold in the EU and the US. So what we have here achieved, I think what we have achieved is that we have a comprehensive system, we have a well-elaborated set of standards, functioning certification system. We ensure that what we promise to the consumer, that they get real organic products. When you look at the sustainability, for me, I mean, it means we have to address the environment, we have to address the economical aspect and the social aspect. And when I look at I think environment is pretty clear. For the economic aspects, I think what is important is that the people can make their living, that the farmers can make their living, that they have a decent life. So the words are also to combat poverty and the livelihoods. And when it looks to the social point, I think most important is that we have sufficient food for everybody and that the people have the access to the food, that we have healthy food, that we have good quality food, and that it is a fairly priced food, and that links to the economy, that farmers can afford to live of what they produce. When it comes to how do we compare, I think we have the most comprehensive sustainable system developed, which is available right now. Overall, I think it's an excellent system. When we look in the different aspects, so I think there are still a lot of deficiencies which we need to address, and I think we will discuss that later on.
Good morning. The organic world reflects the inequality that has become so extreme in the bigger world around us. There are organic businesses that are prospering briskly. Export-import trade is growing. Major conventional companies continue to swallow up independent organic brands, much to the dismay of food co-op shoppers. Annie's just went to General Mills. But at the same time, family-scale farms and smallholders are struggling economically. In the United States, the relatively high price for conventional milk is making organic dairy farmers who are faced with very high prices for feed reconsider certification. Non-certified organic is spreading quickly in urban agriculture projects and community gardens, CSAs, participatory guarantee system projects in South America, Asia, and Africa. A large majority of new wave farmers in the United States are choosing to use organic methods, though they do not want to certify. Permaculture and urban agriculture are great attractions, and I'm very pleased when I read documents from FAO and UNCTAD that say we need to invest in small farms and agroecology because that is the direction out of this kind of inequality that we see today. So how do I understand sustainability? It's not a set of standards, it's a direction for change. And the addition of the word regenerative to organic, as in the Rodale studies, makes a lot of sense, since the system of dominant agriculture and the farming systems that we have shouldn't be sustained, and even when they meet the very minimum of organic standards. As a farmer, sustainable and regenerative organic agriculture means to me always learning more, always seeking to maximize synergies with natural forces on the farm, and to reduce purchased inputs, always seeking to improve social relations among the people who live and work on the farm, the community around us, and the people who purchase our food. And as in the chant, no justice, no peace, there cannot be a truly sustainable food system without justice for the people who grow, pack, ship, process, and sell the food, and also those who seek to buy and eat it. So how do we compare with other sustainable agriculture initiatives? I don't know of any sustainable agriculture initiative that takes as its priority indicator the number of family farms and the prosperity of the people who work on those farms, both farmers and farm workers. Organic agriculture, along with allies like Via Campesina and Urgency, should be leading voices saying that primary producers, smallholders, and employees and enterprises of all scales have the right to a quality of life that affords adequate food, shelter, clothing, health, employment, hours of work that are limited so they have time for family and for recreation, adequate rest from work, overtime that is voluntary, education, training opportunities for themselves and their immediate families. To create a sustainable agriculture, we must advocate for the rights of producers, for a quality of life, which implies the flourishing of culture and a collective way of life that's built over generations by an identified group or a society. We need access to land, either as private property at prices that farmers can afford to pay, or through inheritance, through tribal holdings that aren't threatened by land grabbing, or as leaseholds that provide long-term secure tenure. And all producers and the people who work for them need freedom of association and collective bargaining so that they get the basic rights that they need.
For me, actually, this nutshell we seem to have made into a cocoon for ourselves. We're very comfortable inside that. And for us, when we talk of this organic world, we seem to pat ourselves on the back all the time. But for me, when I come from a country like India, Beate said we have 1.9 million organic farmers. 600,000 are from India. And that's, for any number, that's 1/3. But we have nothing which seems organic in my country. It's just a small percentage somewhere, a blip on the horizon. In our country, we've had the land under organic agriculture which has reduced by 1/3 over the last few years. And that's a cause for concern for me. And so for me, I see organic agriculture has a huge potential, but I think it's very important that the way we look at it and the way we drive it has to change somewhere. And so for me, organic agriculture has potential, but I think somewhere it's being lost. Somewhere we're not being able to push the agenda forward in our own communities, in our own countries. And we talk of sustainability. I think it's a word for the last 2 decades or so, it's just been bandied about. We just use the term sustainability all the time. But what does sustainability mean for you and for me? I think that's something, it's not only about agriculture. For me, agriculture in a sustainable world is just a small part. It's about you, me, how we live our lives. Are we willing to change? Are we willing to give away some of these things, some of the comforts that we have? And then we look at agriculture. Agriculture then makes sense. Sustainability needs to include countries, it needs to include cities, it needs to include our lifestyles, it needs to include people, our cultures. Then it makes sense to be sustainable. And when we talk about comparing to other sustainability issues, I think there will be many. And there will be many in small parts of the world, in small villages, in small corners. And I think we don't need to compare ourselves. We always then get into, I'm better than you, or who's better. I think they are in their own context. Many of them will be very important. Many of them will be more relevant. And I think we need to come together on a common platform. And I think then it will make sense. Then we will move forward to a sustainable world. Thank you.
Hello again. What's organic in a nutshell? I think if I had to choose a word, I would say resilient. It's a community that has developed despite all odds. There was no support, very marginalized by public institutions, and still it has been steadily growing despite economic turmoil in the last years. But at the same time, it's a sector that, despite the growth, is still within 2% of the global markets, maybe 3%. I mean, we are still in 1 digit. And it's a small sector if we compare it to conventional agriculture. So why is it not upscaling? When you look at organic consumers, it's always an information elite that's buying the bulk of the organic food on the markets. It's not everybody. So I think there is a problem of communication of what's behind an organic label. The other problem perhaps is the question we have today, which is what is sustainability? There is a proliferation of sustainability tools. You said you don't know what sustainability is, but according to the ITC standards map, there are at least 130 tools that claim sustainability. Last year, we developed an FAO after a participatory process of 5 years guidelines on sustainability assessment of food and agricultural systems. We looked at all these claims of what sustainability is in food and agricultural enterprises. Sally was here with some benchmarking of about 9 or 10 different tools. And I can confidently say, and if I can say, I can scientifically say, or say almost, that maybe organic is the most sustainable food sector, especially if it's combined with social justice criteria. Of course, there's room for improvement. If you look at sustainability, it does include economic sustainability, which is more the resilience part, according to the SAPA guidelines anyway, social well-being, environmental integrity, but also governance in terms of transparency, accountability, and this is what we achieve through the organic guarantee systems. So we do have sustainability in all 4 dimensions in organic claims. However, when we look at projections that we've been working with together with FIBL in the past 4 years on the potential upscaling of organic agriculture at the global level, we see that if we had to convert all organic agriculture to all the world agriculture to organic management in 2050, the good news is that we could provide enough calories and proteins for the world population of 9.2 billion. We can feed the world in terms of availability. However, there is a major problem in terms of additional land that will be needed. And this is basically because of the feed issue. We are feeding grains that are human edible grains to animals. And this is not the most efficient way to convert protein to food. So of course there is room for improvement in the sustainability of the food sector. So far, the food sector has been very good in establishing the efficiency of the system in terms of input substitution, but much more remains to be done in terms of redesign of landscape and more rational use of resources. So for the last question, how do we compare to other sustainable agriculture initiatives? I would end by saying that organic sector is really a leader in that sector, but an unrecognized leader. Very often, and I see that in my own constituency, you have all the less sustainable maybe enterprises that are always watching what's happening in the organic community, the language which is being used, and they're copying everything on the surface, to look sustainable. So it's a leader in a way, but it's not recognized as such by the public. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Organic farming in a nutshell. Today, it's a globally more or less harmonized code of practice for foods, and this code of practice enables and protects a 60 or more billion US dollar and steadily growing market. It is also a network of more than 90 state regulations in order to protect the consumers. Among those regulations, only two are really important, the EU and the NOP, because of the size of the two markets. So when we talk about vision, and this is the overarching title, there is not much room for visions, because the global market needs stability, predictability, and reliability, and not experiments. Visions are always linked to experiments. And the administrations all over the world perfect regulations with as much details as possible. So also here we don't have room for visions. What organic farming has failed so far is to be recognized as a viable strategy for a global and truly sustainable food security. In the last 10 years, although our institute FIBL has worked a lot on the regulations and on market development in the last 10 years, this issue of how can organic farming be mainstreamed and how can it be an important strategy for global sustainability, this has become my personal motivation to continue, because I think this is the most important question, and this is where we can invest a lot of ideas and visions. Sustainability. The best practice organic farming is an excellent compromise between productivity and delivering public goods. And that has been proven by a massive amount of scientific papers and a lot of meta-analysis. And from our institute we have worked a lot on showing how the potential of organic farming is. It is really the best compromise between productivity and delivering public goods. But in reality, there are so many deficits because best practice is not practiced really on all organic farms. A lot of farms are oriented towards satisfying the market needs, and this doesn't mean that they really practice in a sustainable way. And that's why one of the major progresses we have made within IFOAM is that we have developed with SOAAN indicators and metrics in order to look at organic practices, but also look at organic standards from the point of view of sustainability. The SOAAN standards have been completely based on the SAFA guidelines developed together with FAO, but there are some special add-ons which are typical for organic, and this is especially the food quality, the well-being of people. So, compared to other initiatives, there are so many private sustainability standards. There are so many efforts of governments to motivate the farmers and to guide the farmers towards sustainability. So basically we cannot pretend to be the way towards sustainability. The Congress is under the claim, or under the claim, building organic bridges. I think we should build bridges from organic to other sustainability movements and to other sustainability initiatives, because we can learn a lot from each other, and we should be less exclusive and be concentrating on ourselves. So for me, and this is the last sentence, Organic 3.0 means redesigning organic standard and organic best practices according to a truly comprehensive definition of sustainability. Thanks a lot.
There are 6, 7 seats free yet here if you want someone that are standing up. You can come here in the front side. Well, thank you to all our speakers for sticking to the time. And now, time for you to participate, to react, to agree, disagree, enrich the debate, share your, please, you can come into the seat, and if you are more people willing to participate, please, just there is another seat and you can stand nearby the seat. I'm going to give 2 or 3 minutes to Conrad, so to give us a very quick flash on what I've been saying, the main words, and so on. So you are thinking about your question and you get a bit motivated to participate with us in this debate.
Thank you. A very quick summary of what we've done so far and what we've discussed so far around these issues. Firstly, organic in a nutshell was a thing that had to be defined and summarized. But Alan went very quickly to the issue of sustainability and talked about it, at which pace, at what cost are we doing this, and until all food is safe and until all systems are sustainable and until all soils are healthy and living, we cannot have true sustainability. And talking about science and chemistry, that should be re-looked at, that science is the base and not chemistry. We also looked, Beate brought us the global picture, gave us the figures, gave us the numbers of over 60 billion in retail, about 80% of the farmers sitting in the global south and 90% of the market sitting in the global north. We then looked at Elizabeth looking very much at the social issues, the social realm that we are sitting in, inequality, market consolidation. We've seen it all over the world. We have market consolidation not just in retail, we have market consolidation and certification. So these systems are also becoming more mainstream and in that way possibly less sustainable. We look at synergies, we look at building bridges between organic agriculture, agroecology, our systems. That's very much part of what we do. Matthew talked about us being in a cocoon and not a nutshell, being too comfortable and too self-serving and too self-congratulatory. And then again we got back to, is our system too elitist? Are we too safely ensconced in Matthew's cocoon? And then, can we upscale? Can we lead? Can we really be the leaders in sustainability? And finally, Urs was talking about we have to redesign the definition of what sustainability is, and then we need to design a system according to that definition. And I think that gives us the basis to carry on with the discussion.
Just a brief time dip. We've got 20 minutes for this debate, so to go on after with the 3 following questions. And please be, as our speaker, with 2 minutes intervention, so to favor the debate. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Stefan Tomek. I'm the CEO of a company based in Berlin and Vienna, and we are about 150 shareholders, all scientists and experts. I studied myself medicine and went into business. When we first looked 20 years ago into the organic sector and sustainability, we found out that the organic rules does not or do not implement healthy and social criteria. We think that preventive medicine and health in general is one of the biggest future developments, and I raise the question, organic, what for? Sustainability, what for? If not for healthy, joyful living. We have an increase in cancer if we don't change our food and lifestyle, like WHO, of 70, not 17, 70% within the next 15 years if we don't change anything. We have an increase of Alzheimer, we have an increase of diabetics, overweight. The WHO calls it already a pandemic. This is the focus where the sustainability has to go, we believe. That's why we developed together with IFOAM'ın a new standard called Eco-Wellness, or German Eco-Wellness, which has been accredited since last October. So this standard, based on the organic rules of IFOAM'ın and sustainability rules, implements new scientific laws and regulations for preventive medicine. So you are not getting cancer. You don't have to become a victim of the classical medicine. A cancer patient produces money for the sector, it's incredible. $200 a year.
I'm sorry, Reynard.
So we have to change.
Finishing your intervention.
Okay. So this is my appel, that's what I'm here for as a member of IFOAM'ın. We have to go to new dimensions and new quality. Sustainability, yes, but for health, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we can see, therefore, that we have many indicators for approaching sustainability. We've got some very quantitative ones that have been proposed by our speakers, some SAFA instruments, other economics, we've got the markets. We're also talking about farmers being able to live on their farming profession, farmers' profession, but we also have other indicators that Elizabeth raised out, like peace, justice, rights, and other that are not quantitative but qualitative. And we also add this health indicator right now. That's perhaps you want to react on that and to share with us reflection on this issue on how broad approaches we are facing towards sustainability. Please.
Okay. My name is Pascal Benou. I'm a farmer coming from Benin. Benin is a small country of West Africa. I live in a region called Weme. The majority of farmers there are organic, but not certified. So after listening everything you are talking about, I would like to ask a question, probably to Elizabeth. Do you think that organic is a form of biocolonialization?
Please, I let you the microphone. Perhaps any other speaker or people from the floor can also participate to this question.
I think that's a very challenging question, not just for me as a farmer in the north, but for all of us as an organic movement. Biocolonialism in Africa, but the same kind of exploitive relationships that exist between markets and farmers all over the world. The year I was born, there were 7 million farmers in the United States. Now there are 2 million. People didn't leave farming because they didn't like it. They left farming because they couldn't afford to stay on the farm. And so we see, as we extend organic around the world, we're just replicating those same market relationships unless we think of some other way of doing things. So I would say, in answer to your question, yes, I think that's what's happening, but we have to figure out how to change it, and that's a real challenge to all of us. Maybe you can make some suggestions.
Thank you. Laura, you wanted to? The idea is to be free in the seat for other people to come to the round. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Montenegro from Argentina. I wanted to ask the people if they reduce the waste, because we have the idea that consumed things give us happiness, and it's not true. The happiness not come from the use of things. So I wonder if somebody can reflect about to change the pattern about consumption, less consumption, and these hyper consumptions only create individual things, and we are going to eat alone and talk by phone, by cell phone, instead to look at somebody in the eyes.
Thank you, Laura. Very deep questions that deals with more than agriculture, I mean, but we are talking about our principles of organic. Any of you wishes to?
Somebody who wants us.
Thank you, Matthew.
I agree with you, Laura. Because unless, I think, if we don't make the first attempts to change our own lifestyles, the way we think, though it's not only consumption in a very large sense, the kind of clothes we want to wear, the kinds of lifestyles we want to live, the kinds of vehicles we want to use. And if we don't address each one of them and look at it individually first, and then move out to the larger society, I think this is a one-way road down. So organic agriculture is in one part playing a role at the production end, but I think as consumers and as part of the society, I think we need to answer these questions individually and then move on.
Thank you. Anyone else is, please come in. 2 minutes for each.
My name is Bob Quinn. I'm an organic farmer from Montana, from Big Sandy, Montana. I've been an organic farmer for 30 years, and I see one of the problems that we have, I believe, is not communicating our message well enough. And it goes, I hear some voices that are trying to imitate the conventional model of cheap food. And I think we really need to explain more and more the high cost of cheap food. And we've heard it already. Thank you. We've already heard it in relative to health questions. It's a very big link between health and nutrition. And organic has a very good story to tell about nutrition. And I think we need to tell it more. One problem I see on our farm, we are surrounded by chemical contamination. And that is becoming more and more of a problem. We're seeing glyphosate now in very minute amounts, even on our organic food. And we also, at the same time, besides telling our own story, need to have some way to protect ourselves from the contamination that is growing, not only in North America, but I believe in the world, with the use of chemicals.
Thank you. Please. Your turn.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about the, I'm Julia Cooper from the UK, Newcastle University. I wanted to mention about the other sustainable agriculture initiatives, and just bring up the conservation agriculture movement, which I do feel is actually becoming a movement in the conventional sector. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's being promoted by the FAO, and maybe our FAO representative has something to say about it. But many of the principles that they follow or advocate are really organic farming principles, crop rotation and preserving soil carbon. And I was at a meeting in Brussels in April called the Green Carbon Meeting, which was all about conservation agriculture in Europe. And it was, and there are many times in that room where I felt like I was at an organic event, because the level of passion and excitement about soil carbon, maintaining soil quality, earthworms, biodiversity, it all sounded very organic to me. But there was no representation from the organic sector there at all, and I thought that was a shame. So I'd like to challenge the people, our panel here, to think about linking more with some of these movements in the conventional world that in fact are actually very organic in many of their approaches, and just think maybe in the future we need to open dialogue more and influence those movements a bit more.
Thank you for this option and this way of solution, perhaps. Thanks for bringing us options and perhaps future solutions to our debates and our trends.
And I thought it was sort of disappointing. Some of the speakers this morning have mentioned that they know conventional people that haven't bothered to certify organic, but they're actually doing many organic things, or they're organic. And I thought, well, that's actually not a failure of the movement that this farmer has chosen not to certify, and maybe, you know, to really spread, you know, and then maybe what you're getting at, Urs, that we need to look more at getting organic practices just more dispersed throughout the conventional industry and not worry so much about certification.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Motti. I'm from the UK, and my official title is a natural capitalist. Just a couple of challenging comments to the panel. What stands out for me, we've been working in the organic movement for about 20 years, and there's two things which came out from this presentations this morning which I'd like to address. One is the semantics. It seems like there's too many semantics floating around which don't really make any sense. For example, why is organic and sustainability being addressed as two separate things? If organic is a culture, it represents a culture. The whole concept of organic is about sustainability and vice versa. So I think that moving forward, when we talk about organic, we should be also referring to or meaning sustainability. And when we're talking about sustainability, or when we're talking about organic, we should be talking about the four essential pillars, which is about the socio-cultural part, the economic, the new one, well-being, and nature. The second is looking forward. If the objective is to make organic part of the mainstream, and maybe even overtake conventional or make organic become part of the conventional farming, should we be even using the word organic? In other words, if conventional farming, if the objective is to make all farming better farming, maybe we should be talking about organic being one part of better farming. So in many cases, for example, in the developing world, the farmers who are promoting or practicing organic, as described by the gentleman from Benin or India, are not doing it because they're trying to protect the world, but because organic is an indigenous form of farming. It's all about back to basics. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, why not take what's existing out there and look at the whole, even redefining what organic agriculture means going forward as it goes into the mainstream.
Thank you. Urs, you wanted to react to that? Perhaps any of you would also add something.
Thanks a lot. The two last speakers raised a very important point. I have been invited to many conventional sustainability initiatives in the last 10 years, talk about the sustainability of organic agriculture. And what I saw, and I was always surprised that these people always thought that organic is only about food quality, and it is not about sustainability.
They even have thought about that organic farming has to be looked at in the context of sustainability, and they have always been impressed and overwhelmed by the facts we can present from scientific papers, and that's why I really think it's important to build bridges, to go to conventional conferences, to go to participate into conventional scientific or political committees to talk about organic and to talk about the evidence, because it is not yet widely recognized that organic farming has something to do with really comprehensive, truly sustainable solution.
Thank you. Perhaps shall we close the floor, for a while we just go to the next 3 questions? And I would like to share with you one of the thoughts is coming to my mind while hearing your questions and the speaker's presentation. It's interesting to see how we are trying to broaden the organic scope. We are talking about health, rights, justice. We've always been talking about that, but we have also talked about certification, about market, about land access. Many times, some of you speakers in the first part of this session, we have mentioned the land access or the problem of land grabbing. We have many issues to face. I think that we are quite well achieving this session and this session on visions and trends of the organic farming. But now we are going to deep on a bit even more. Thanks to our 3 questions, we're going to go with the same order of intervention, please. Anna.
Going with the next questions, what is the main achievement? I believe it can be said that you've kept regenerative agriculture alive and growing against government policies, mainstream, global finance, etc. That's a wonderful achievement. But as I mentioned earlier, going too slowly to save civilization as we know it. With regard to the second point, megatrends that the movement has been aware of and taken advantage of, I've not been close enough to know what megatrends you have taken cognizance of. What I am aware of is I believe, and I really appeal to you to think about this seriously, that you're missing the biggest one, and that is climate change. Global desertification, increasing droughts, poverty, violence, up to 250,000 tons of sand being dumped on Beijing in one day at times now, the people drowning, running across the Mediterranean, all because of agriculture. And you have a leading role to play in this, and I don't see it coming out. I think strategy, you need to rethink strategy on a much bigger scale if you want a meaningful future for civilization as we know it. Just to give you one example, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane, and black carbon and desertification are the main things leading to climate change. 3 of those gases and black carbon, we can stop adding them to the environment with technology. Humans only have 2 tools, technology and fire. That's it. Right? All of those we can stop with agriculture. All of those we can bring down and safely store without unintended consequences from the way nature works with agriculture, but only if we add livestock as a tool properly managed. Because without livestock, that cannot be done. And I don't see the organic movement grasping on that, understanding that. So I'm really appealing to you to look at a bigger scale, and nearly all the woes and problems we're facing are stemming from policies. When I was last at IFOAM, I was staggered by the amount of knowledge that was available in this room. But when we were out on the land and I saw wrong practices that clearly weren't sustainable, when I said, why are you doing this? People repeatedly said laws and regulations. policies. And I don't hear it really addressing that. That's enough. Thank you.
Understanding what Alan Savory just said is one of the things that will attract a lot more young people to organic agriculture. One of our main achievements from the perspective of a family-scale farmer in the United States is that organic farming has saved many farms and attracted a lot of new people to farming. And the more of the young farmers who understand that they can contribute to mitigating climate change by using organic methods, the more of them are going to join our work. At this point, organic producers are much more likely to be beginning farmers, with 27% starting farming in the last 10 years, compared to 18% of farmers in general in the United States. And organic operators were younger, with 26% under 45 years old, compared to 16% of all principal operators. So we are the future, and our numbers are growing. As far as megatrends, I think the megatrend that we seized most powerfully was the Silent Spring in 1971 and similar writings in other countries. But we have a megatrend coming up right now, which is the megatrend of climate change, and making really clear the contribution that we can make to mitigating against it and perhaps stopping its worst effects. And what are our shortcomings? I'll go back to the things I was saying before. Until recently, organic agriculture has not taken the lead in campaigning for the rights of smallholders, indigenous farmers, and farm worker justice. The SOAAN Best Practice Guidelines makes a very good beginning in addressing these issues. But if we just leave them on paper, they will gather dust like many other fine proclamations. Organic principles must be grounded, organic practices must be grounded in the 4 principles of organic agriculture, and the standards have to reflect those principles. So the prices for organic products have to be negotiated. They have to be fair and fully cover the real cost of the entire process of sustaining a regenerative ecological system. And then farmers will be able to make a living and pay decent wages to the people who work for them. So we can build fairness as well as ecology, health, and care into our everyday practices on our farms and in the marketplace. A farmer friend, Jim Cochran, out in California, said, if we're worried about insects and the environment, for God's sakes, what about the people?
Well, when looking at the main achievements, main impacts, I think one main achievement which we have is that we have a system which is guiding in many aspects. We developed a system which is guiding many aspects. One is that we have convinced our rule makers that quality is not only defined by the quality of the end product, but quality is defined by a production system. And I think that's a huge achievement. Linked to that, because then the question was, okay, if it's not the final product quality, we need a certification system which also controls the production system. We have to really elaborate a very detailed certification system, and we are currently a bit stuck into that. And I think with that, by intending really to prove that this is really organic, we came in a situation that we more and more put everything underneath this. It has to be proven, it has to be certified, and that is especially when you're looking through the standards which we have today. We have huge standards documents, very detailed standards documents, And we even, I mean, when we discuss standards, always immediately there is the claim, how can you verify that? How can you control that? And that makes it difficult to include the visions in our standards, in our where do we want to go to. And we realized that, for example, in FIBL, when we do the standards assessment, when organic standards were compared with other standards, that we often had weak positions. We were not weighted that strongly. The reason behind is that others had huge claims, but nothing which you could really verify, wherein we ourselves limited very much to really, okay, that you can prove with an inspector when he goes to the farm. And I think that is one of the problems we are currently stuck to. When you look at the other achievement, I think we have also achieved a lot in technology development. For example, we could prove that you can have an intensive production which is not decreasing soil fertility but increasing soil fertility. We have proven that you can have a dairy production without antibiotics, that you can have feed production which is integrated in an agricultural cycle, that we don't have to feed no food. So we have proven that we can have very intensive low input production systems. There's a lot we have developed, and there's a lot also the conventional agriculture can take up. When we come to the shortcomings, I would like to address one point that was mentioned, I think was by Pascal, with the word biocolonism. Organic, as we define it nowadays, is very much a system developed by by Western consumers, by Western farmers. We very much look at our values and interpreted that into standards. So when we look at the what I think is a broader sense of what organic agriculture is, how can organic agriculture contribute to food security, to poverty alleviation? We have to admit that we are very much in the beginning. We do claim a lot, but it is questionable what we really provide. When we look at comparisons, which we do in the research, comparing the yields of the different systems, we see that in climates like here in Europe, we usually have about 20% lower yields when we have intensive production systems in conventional. We have indications, though, that in Africa, there was a famous FAO study that when you introduce organic agriculture, that you have an increase of the production, but we don't have clear ideas why there is this increase. So I think a question what we have to ask ourselves is the concept we have adequate in the context where there is a shortage of food. What can organic agriculture deliver there?
And I think one of the most important things is when Elizabeth said that, you know, what about people? And I just think that in a country like ours, and in a continent like Asia or Africa or Latin America, and so many, there are thankfully hundreds of millions of farmers who are not bothered that whether they are organic or not. They're farming, and they're farming to the best of their ability. They're farming with tradition, they're farming with culture, and they're respecting the land that they are working on. And I think that's one of the biggest things that continues to happen, and certification has not become an end in itself in many of our places. I think one of the biggest shortcomings that organic agriculture has is it doesn't know how to operate in this market-driven political and economic system. Everything becomes commodified, everything becomes in terms of numbers, everything is split up, but the environment is not split up. Organic agriculture is not split up. It's not looked in bits and pieces. And I think that's something that organic agriculture constantly has to push and to be able to bring forth to the world. Thank you.
From his microphone for the next fishbowl session, so to facilitate a bit the dynamic.
Main achievement, I think, I would agree with Urs when he said that, you know, it's really a sector that has proven that we can be productive and economically feasible at the same time. And today that the world is moving toward a more green economy, how are we going to do that? There is really the organic sector, which is a role model. Actually, in response to the previous question before on the real cost of food, we had a project on looking at the real cost of food waste, an FAO recently, which just finished. And we saw that for each dollar that you spend on your food, you're spending an equivalent sum in terms of taxes you pay for environmental mitigation, and the same amount again for health impact and livelihood. So the food, which is an underestimate actually, costs at least 3 times much more than the price that you find on the market. And the organic community has been able to internalize those externalities in a successful way without any assistance from outside, just the farmers going to the market and creating that market. The second question is about the mega trend that has been taken advantage of. Unfortunately, it's sad to call it mega trend food scarce, but this has been really behind a lot of the growth of the organic sector, because even though it's environmental claim, most of the consumers buy organic for health perceptions, and the failure of the conventional system in delivering healthy food without residues, or more recently also environmental failures like climate change, or even economic ones like jobs. I mean, all these failures of the conventional system have been really the main engines of development, I would say, of consumers seeking organic produce. So in a way, the organic sector I would define as a teenager on the way of manhood. Why is that? Because we had principles for what organic is, but then this drive to penetrate markets and to be in the main retailer's food chain, it has really commoditized. And the main hindrance today and where the values are being lost is the fact that organic is always going for market competitiveness and complying with the whole way food is distributed and sold and consumed. And like all teenager needs to maybe mature, and this is what 3.0 I think is, of organic, and has its own identity, its own way of developing, and this is already starting. We see short supply chains, we see a lot of solidarity initiatives, but these are still very small as compared to the main market where you have more and more like corporate interests that is leading it. The last question is on the shortcoming of organic agriculture. I think there has been a necessity to protect what an organic standard is and to not to compromise on input use. And I think this has been basically the main reason why the organic community has been isolated itself in that process. These guys, they use some inputs, we don't want to team up with them. So this isolation, which was in a way by necessity, is today maybe a hindrance of a sector that is not really creating the alliances it should have with other environmental and social movements. I think with the IT technology that we have today, we can actually, and there's a lot of creativity around here to have a system which is based more on trustworthy and transparency systems which go beyond certification, which which is a bit something which is blocks a lot of the people from the rest of agriculture. I mean, this organic certification, even though it's needed, is always seen as a hindrance. It's a cost. It's complicated. It's also creating some rules in the international trade which are not necessarily what the organic movement would like to see. In conclusion, I think that the recommendation would be to have more of a larger critical mass of the organic movement in order to grow and to be able to transform rather than conform the dominant agro-food system. Thank you.
Coming to the achievements first, I think the most important achievement is that organic farming has been able to create a tremendous awareness for its case. And in a way, because the economic power of the organic sector is tiny, but everybody knows about organic farming. In a way, we are already a good example of Christian Felber's common good economy. We convince with ideas, not with money. So, and it's even all those people promoting their own cases, like the chemical industry, with we produce more from less. What they mean is we produce more food from less land than the organic people. So everybody compares its own achievements with organic, and this is a good thing. Short farms, and this can only be done in the regional context because best practice is always regional, and that's why it's so important. We have one of the important shortcomings is also research. We estimate that about 0.6% of the research spending is on organic farming, and you cannot expect a sector to develop with such a tiny, minor research investment. And it is clear that about 1,000 organic scientists which are around the globe, talking with them, you see so many brilliant ideas how to make organic farming better, how to make organic farming more productive, that a little bit more of money would really enhance the performance of organic farming. The megatrend, we risk to become or not to become mainstreamed, and other sustainability initiatives will become mainstream, and that's why I really ask the organic movement to redesign and to rethink and to reshape organic farming as a concept for mainstreaming. That's extremely important. Thanks a lot.
Well, time for your question and your comments. We are going to give very brief 2 or 3 minutes to Conrad, once again, to refresh a bit our mind about everything that's been said. New words I was expecting to come have finally came out in the debate, like climate change, like research. We are also have to think about these kind of alliances we can build. We have already, of course, but how can we go further on these alliances with research around climate change towards a better sustainability of the organic farming sector? Sorry.
I think this one very, very briefly, going through what was said and getting yourself ready for the last few minutes of debate and talking. Yes, very clearly what came out of this one, building bridges. The theme of the conference is coming out here that we have to get out of our castle, we have to lower the drawbridge, and we have to send the search parties out. And this was said even 3 years ago. I quote Catherine de Matteo here, but that was very much coming out here. Climate change, that we are failing on it. That's an interesting one. That we're failing on those on that mega trend. Good things that we have done with good systems. that we have created good systems to verify, but those same systems are coming back to haunt us. I think that's something that's coming out. I think Matthew also talking about our diversity of people, diversity of systems, local solutions to local problems. That is coming out very clearly, but that we don't get the market, or the market is getting us. That the market and the movement is in some kind of trouble here. And yes, we are a teenager. I think hopefully not a goth one. And that we had to make certain compromises. That puts us in a position of, where we can be criticized, but that we were very good in creating awareness. We were very good in making our voice bigger than we currently really are, but that we're not doing enough on research, that we are missing the boat, and that we might even miss the mainstream boat, was Ursa's last thought. So yeah, let's go from there.
Many positive messages, especially from Nadia. Thank you, Nadia, for bringing us some very positive results on what we have been doing for the last, I don't know how many years. But perhaps you've got some of them. Any more from you? What do you think, please? What do you think? Which megatrends are we facing? Which positive results can we be proud of?
Yeah, I'm Bernhard Geier, since 30 years IFOAM activist. Urs, I wish you are so often right, and you are driving us so often, but I wish you would be right when it comes to the common good movement and the economic paradigm shift. I think the fact that we have not come out of the niche since 30 years is that we have not really also taken care that there is an economic paradigm shift. If I look at the development in the United States, the corporate takeover of organic businesses, the money orientation of the organic business, then I think we have a lot to do and a lot to learn. And that there are 1,200 companies in the common good movement at the moment. There should be 2,000 out of the organic movement right away joining. Because at least they know about it, and some are qualified, actually some are very good scoring in the system, but it's a handful. And I came to the conclusion after all these years in the movement that with the allies we form allies with slow food, we form allies with a lot of movements. If 90% of the population, I think this figure is pretty right, the moment they know what capitalism leads to, want another economic system. And I'm not talking that we get rid of capitalism, we just give capitalism a different meaning, a different face along the line which Christian elaborated so well, then we're on the right track. So I think IFOAM is very well advised, and we as a movement, that we tackle the economic issue.
Yes, merhaba. My name is Thorsten Siegmeier, University of Kassel, Witzenhausen in Germany. And I like to very briefly add one shortcoming from my point of view. And we haven't at all been hearing the word energy. And actually, my belief is that the current highly mechanized production systems, even in organic agriculture, they're just using too much energy. And if we are talking about truly sustainable agriculture, this will be a big problem. And we also heard that, organic agriculture came a long way, 10,000 years back. It's a huge tradition, but 10,000 years back, agriculture was also supplying energy. So one mega trend, which is bioenergy in our world today, renewable energy in the face of climate change, is missing here. And also one shortcoming of organic systems, in my point of view, would be the reintegration of energy and food systems. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to share? Andre? Are you? No, sorry, I don't see nothing. Okay, any reaction from you? Because I've got, please, Nadia.
When we talk about different components of sustainability, I think it would be, many things have been mentioned here also about health, waste, and so forth. I would invite those who don't know SAFA to look at the SAFA guidelines that have all these different components of sustainability. And if you do a benchmarking of organic standards against SAFA, you will see that it does not comply with more than half of the sustainability criteria. But this is the most sustainable we have. Because one thing is to have a wishful thinking about having sustainability on all things, but you have to be economically viable at the same time. And I think this is the issue. It's not a question of I would like to have this, I would like to have that, but what is today feasible in economic terms? And I think maybe the economic aspect really needs to be worked out, you know, what we mean by that and what we want to do. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Yes, anyone else, please? I've got a question that is going to be a bit difficult perhaps to answer, but it's going to open the debate. But thank you, please.
My name is Xian. I'm a young farmer in China. Just now we talked about a lot about organic agriculture, and I think I want to also refer to how we will emphasize on rural culture. Because when people, when humans live on a rural area, as like in China, in a lot of village, you will definitely limit your behavior. Like you will limit your desire, and like most of the farmers in China, they're diet. They mainly based on like a vegetarian diet. So you can't butcher any animals every day to just rely on meat. So I think when we talk about organic agriculture, we should also, like right now in China, we have a rural regeneration movements. So we also have a lot of young people going back to the countryside because we think whatever we talk about agriculture, we have to talk about it is a way of life. And also, you know, but right now we face a lot of challenge because when you're living in rural areas, you're living in a village. Like right now, my husband and I, we face also like in the future, how our kids can get education and also medical care. You know, we don't want to send our kids to a mainstream education like any school like that. So we actually, like in many young people in China, many young farmers, we are trying to build you know, like all new social society, a new society that based on a rural culture. So that's what I want to talk about.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Turkey, for hosting this conference. Thank you, IFOAM, for providing this opportunity for everybody to participate. My name is Saad Khalil. I'm the Secretary General for the Saudi Organic Farming Association, Saudi Arabia. And I'd like just to point out the respected lady this morning forget to mention Saudi Arabia among the countries. From my point of view, really, the main achievement really of organic movement nowadays that we successfully gave the consumer the choice. In the past, the consumer has to choose either conventional or GMO products. But now you can find in the shelf organic product, GMO, conventional products. So we gave the consumer the choice that he is supposed to choose, and he can choose from what is available in the shelf. But from the other side, and I can say it's some sort of shortcoming, that we failed really to offer sustainable organic products in the markets, and I think everywhere in the world. And we can guess that from the percentage that is shown in the data every year. I think continuous supply or stable supply of organic products is the main challenge for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I must say it's the last intervention. We have 5 minutes less, and we would like to have a last intervention from our speaker. Please.
Okay, my name is Maaike Hendricks. I'm from Holland, from the organization Both Ends. and we work with many partners all over the world. And I want to mention one mega trend that hasn't been mentioned here, which is the loss of biodiversity in the world and the loss of forest, which has an enormous consequence for the people who live in the forest, who live around the forest. And this loss of trees also has an enormous effect on agriculture, because it means if you have trees, you have healthy soils, you have healthy water flows. So in terms of building bridges, I would say let's also connect to people who work in regeneration of soils by planting trees. And not only planting trees, but planting whole forests. And there is a movement going on in the south that are restoring forests in combination with organic agriculture. So you can bring back forest and mimicking the original forest that was originally there, and then integrate organic products within that forest. This movement has made their own standards. These were standards that were made for groups that work and live in the global south. It's called forest garden products. And these standards are so professional now that even IFOAM has recognized these forest garden product standards, and it has been taken up in the family of standards of IFOAM. And it's the first standard that was totally developed by people from the south. So I wanted to mention this to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. And 3 minutes. And I'm going to take back a comment that Nadia did once more. It's about standards. You, if I understood well, you were saying that standards had perhaps isolated, how do you say that in English? In a certain way, the fact of having standards in organic farming has isolated us from being a mainstreaming organization. Was that the idea? No. Sorry? Certification. Okay, certification. I would like to have perhaps very brief intervention on what do you think we could do to face that forthcoming, and to understand which all these trends we have been commenting now, what can we do with this tool that is really creating the sector? Because under certification there is the sector. Organic is because we are certified organic. Of course there are many others farming not certified that are organic, that's for sure. But how do you feel about this feeling of isolation because of certification? To face these trends, how can we manage that?
First of all, I would not like to shoot on the certification, because this has been a pioneering work, but I think time has passed for that. It's a bit like before, when you wanted to do anything in your government, you need to go and have a certificate of your birth. Now you can do self-certification, and it can be checked somehow. And I think with the IT technology we have today, we can have transparencies through different systems which are less costly based on self-certification. And somehow, maybe Nature and More has been the pioneer, so again, from the organic community in doing it, with the sustainability flower. I mean, you do have access to through the internet to all the information about that farmer. So maybe one day this could be self-assessment with some type. I mean, I don't have all the solution, of guarantee behind it, of a clearinghouse, where these things could be more interactive and less depending on this, a category of certification, which is today really blocking a lot of the non-organic people to come into the sector. So I think this thing, which has been a waste, now has done its time, and it needs some revision with more creativity, and I think it's all in this room.
Thank you very much. Perhaps any of you would like to add something or to react to that?
The issue of certification and verification becomes much less important when there is a strong local community where people know one another. And that connects with what Xian said about rural redevelopment and building communities of people who share values and who work together. In a small town, everybody knows everybody else, and after a while you know who has integrity and who doesn't, and whom you can believe and whom you can't believe. But the gap between where we are now and a kind of future that would be built on vibrant, highly cultural, local communities, we have a way to go. I would not want to have to send my children to the schools in the county that surrounds me, Wayne County, which has lost hundreds of school teachers as money's been cut back for education because we don't tax the people who have the money. So there's a great deal of work to be done. The young farmers I know want to live in the city and farm nearby, and land there is very expensive. So we're looking at a different kind of future, which will take a lot of creativity to pull it off.
Many of the thoughts I wanted to make, Elizabeth has said them. But I think one of the things that remains crucial for me is that how do we make organic agriculture more inclusive? We just tend to limit ourselves. We just tend to look inward. And I think unless we start looking at communities, unless we start looking at the environment and the people who deal with that, whether it's forests or whether it's farmland, that it expands its horizon and is able to include all of them, then only organic agriculture will be able to expand and be a part of a normal lifestyle, not that we need to certify or to be able to recognize, but it just becomes a part of our lives.
I think also an answer is, as was mentioned, is the regionalization. We have to recognize that the needs are not everywhere the same. We have in Europe a system where the consumers pay premium pricing. Of course, they want to have an assurance that if they pay a premium price that they get what they paid for. But we have to see that we have in other contexts other issues. We have either closer communities where you can build more upon trust and you don't have to base upon certification. You have contexts where you have a shortage of food, where you don't talk about premium prices. And for these different contexts, you need different systems, and I think we have been starting working on that. And also IFOAM started with this family of standards, started the basis, let's look at have a common ground, but let's accept that we have and we need this diversity. And therefore I think this current EU regulation is so, this revision of the EU regulation is such a problem, which want to have one concept for all over the world, and I think this won't help us for the future.
Thank you very much. I think we have to close the session. I must say that it's 33 and we are in the Mediterranean country, moderated by a Mediterranean person. Therefore, I think it's quite well. We are good on time. I want to thank you all for participating and assisting that well to this session. Of course, all the speakers for sticking to the time and for giving us that many diverse and interesting inputs. And I think we got the whole Congress to try to have more information, more debates, and perhaps even some solutions or answers to the questions that have been raised here. Thank you very much.